Namaste. Let us start the class. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let me quickly chant the first 5 verses, and my suggestion would be to, if you can, memorize these 5 verses, and at least these 5 verses. And so on that basis I will just chant these 5, and from perhaps later on we will just go straight on to the verses that we will be doing. Today we're going to start on verse number 6, so I will explain that in more detail, but just a enunciation of the first 5 verses so that it stays in your mind. Rupam drishyam lochanam drik tadrishyam driktu manasam drishyadhi vrittaya sakshi drigeva natu drishyate Nilapita sthula sukshma rasva dirghadi bhedataha nana vidhani rupani pashyet lochaname katha andhyamandhya patutveshu netru dharmeshu chaikadha sankalpayen manah shrotra tvagadau yojyatamidam Kama sankalpa sandehau Shraddha shraddhe dhriti tare Hrir dhir bhir ityevamadin Bhasayetyekadha chitihi Nodeti na astameti yesha Na vriddhim yati nakshayam Swayam vibhati atha anyani Bhasayet sadhanam vina. So today we will start a new section which Swami Viditatmananda ji has so appropriately termed in the kind of the next topic is the nature of the individual, the nature of you and I as jivas. So we can start to analyze further the reality of what is happening to us, who are we, and so on and so forth. So what we have seen in the first 5 verses is that, as the title of the book itself states, Drg Drsya, the seer and the seen, are the 2 basic ingredients of our life. So this was meticulously analyzed and concluded, starting with Rupam, Drishyam, Lochanam, Drik, etc. all the way up to the very first verse, Drigeva natu sakshi, Drigeva natu drishyate. So what it said was that, really speaking, if you begin to analyze your life, analyze yourself, really, not just your life, but analyze yourself and your experiences, what you should conclude. So this is a suggestion. This is how to think. This is an important thing, because our ability to think in our life is based on our identification with a human body and mind. So the way we think is what is my life all about? Where am I going? What's happening to me? But the basis of the entire, in Sanskritam we call it vichara dhara, the line of thinking. It's called vichara. Vichara means thinking, and dhara means the sequence. So our entire line of thinking, the way we approach our life, is all based on myself as an individual. This is how we think. Pardon me. The Vedas say that that's fine, you can do that if you want, you can continue to, and we do. But there is another way to look at yourself, which is not assume that you are a limited individual. At least not in the beginning. Let's see what the reality of the individuality is. But to be free to think about all possibilities. So you see what I'm saying is that in our thinking, our basis of thinking is based on my firm identity as a human being. Right? This is how we look at it. The Vedas say, let's look at it another way. And so that means your basis should not be restricted to yourself as a human being. You don't don't automatically conclude you are a human being and then the rest of it follows from it. It says there is something else that's going on, and be open to looking at yourself. Don't conclude you are a human being. Even though our analysis begins with with myself as a human being in the very first verse, but it says think of it this way. So this instruction of vicharadhara, our way of thinking, follows the instruction of the Vedas, of the spiritual wisdom of the Vedas. There it says that if you were to analyze who you are, you should conclude, and hopefully you do that, correctly, that you consist of two entities initially. This is also will change over time, but initially you will conclude that you are either a Drik or a Drishya. The way to look at yourself is through the filter of see yourself as a Drik, a seer, and a seen. And here, inherently, the seer is, in a way you can say that, superior to what is seen. I mean, not superior in the sense, but it is something more subtle. Why? Because the seer can walk away from the seen. The seen depends upon the seer. Seen is dependent, seer is independent. And so in that sense there is a superiority, the sense of independence. This is in general. So for example, if there is, let's say there is a mishap where two vehicles collide, or a car hits a bicyclist. So those are people who are involved in the accident. But if you are a witness to that accident, then in that sense you are independent of the accident. You can walk away from it. You can recite it to someone else. But you're not involved in the consequences of it. So what I'm saying is that the seer is inherently at a higher level than the seen. But in this particular case, through our analysis, we found that if you analyze yourself in these two terms, seer and the seen, you will see something much more profound than the simple relationship between a seer and seen, like a witness and a mishap. You will see something totally profound. And what you will see is that you consist of two elements. So one element is, which is really, even though it behaves like a seer, but it is not. It is always seen. So your eyes behave as though they are seers, and they rightly are given a power to see, but they are not always a seer. They themselves become a seen. And if you continue with this analysis, what you find is that everything is seen only, not a seer. Everything is seen with one exception, which is you, the Sakshi, the conscious individual. And not only that, not only do you render everything else as seen, but you as the seer have an enormous capability. Not just a seer of an accident or something like that. You are totally free. Never born, na udayati. Not possible to be disturbed, na astameti. Not subject to any changes, na vriddhim yati nakshayam, swayam vibhati. You are self-existing. Self-existence is a word, really, is a concept. But if we can understand the enormity of that concept, it is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I remember when we were taught by Swami Dayanandji, in the beginning it just looked like a word, just like a concept. Oh yeah, self-existing, the other ones are so on and so forth. But the implication of the self-existence, self-awareness, self-existence and self-awareness are mind-boggling, enormous. So anyway, in summary, what the first 5 verses said is that really speaking, if you analyze, there are only 2 things. How can there are, so there's also the mind, there is all the sense organs, there's the body and so on and so forth. They are all classified in this way of analyzing as seen. And there is one seer and everything else is a seen. Okay, let's proceed further. Not only that, the seen is inert. Whatever is seen is inert. Sakshi is the only conscious entity in the world. Everything depends upon you to light it up. You have to see this is this thing. So for example, a chair does not reveal itself until you are there. When you are there, your consciousness is the one which says, this is a chair. The chair does not automatically hit you. You have to provide the mechanism. So that means that the chair by itself is not conscious. It is not conscious. It cannot just provide you with any kind of a any existence by itself. You have to validate it. That's the word I was looking for. You have to validate it. Yes, this is a chair. So the consciousness is involved in recognizing anything as anything. So all it means is that so this you can take it to the town with you. Anything which is Drsya, anything which is seen, is inert. So again, I think a very beautiful mechanism of seeing the electricity and the appliance. The appliances do not have their own power. They depend upon the power of electricity. And the reflected electricity can then do a number of things, as we will see. Anyway, that's going to come up in verse number 6. But anyway, it's summarizing at this point. This world, you and I, consist of two things. We have the entire set of experiences which are called Drsya, and then I am the Drik. So we've already talked about the inertness of the world. The Drik is now independent. It is self-existing. It is self-aware. And it has no limitations whatsoever. It is independent. It is free. As this analysis shows us, this is what we have to see. All right. So this is what was established in the first 5 verses. Okay, so now we can see the conclusions of it. And this is how the text proceeds. That first it establishes the basic elements of my life. Drik and Drsya are the two different elements. And one is dependent, the other one is independent. One is inert, the other one is conscious. And you are the conscious, and what you see is the inert. This is the analysis. Now we proceed further. And this is given in verse number 6. So let's at least chant verse number 6, and then we will see what the significance of that is. So I will chant each fourth of the verse twice, and then you can, so I do it twice so that you can also follow your pronunciation. Number 6. Chitchaya veshato buddhau. Chitchaya veshato buddhau. Bhanam dhistu dvidhastita. Bhanam dhistu dvidhastita. Ekaham krityanan. Ekaham krityan anya syat. Ekaham krityanya syat. Antak karana rupini. Antak karana rupini. And I'll just pronounce the whole verse now. Chitchaya veshatau buddhau. Bhanam dhistu dvidhastita. Ehang kriti anya syat. Antak karana rupini. So this is the verse. So when before we analyze the words in it and the meaning of it and so on, I'll go back to establishing the reason for this. What is the topic? So the topic here is as Swami Viditatmananda has termed this, the nature of the individual. Nature of the individual. So the question is, we have a sense of samsara in our life. Samsara means a sense of limitation, a sense of not complete freedom, a sense of, in fact, bondage. Samsara means bondage. Bondage meaning that we are not completely free. If you think that you are completely free, then I ask you, please do not eat for 8 hours. You are under the bondage of hunger. Don't sleep. You cannot last that long. So forget about bondage in terms of, it's not as though we have these things that are around your hand like a prisoner. But we are all prisoners of things that we depend upon. Our body is breaking down, our mind is changing, our relationship is there. We are bondage all along, all throughout. In fact, the moments when we are free are very far and in between. Most of the time we have a sense of, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to go to work? This is Monday again. This, that, or the other. Why am I getting old? Why can't I do? This is called samsara, a bondage. So, the word samsara means samyak sarati. Samyak sarati means that one which is continuously moving. You cannot hold on to anything. You cannot say, okay, this is me. From now on, I'm not changing. You can't do that. Continuously changing. So sense of bondage is called samsara. Now, having established the definition of the word samsara, the question is, let us see who has this sense of samsara. Who is this person? Why are we asking this way? It is very clear this is me that is have samsara. Who is this me? Because the reason we raise this question is because according to the analysis of the first 5 verses, we have already established that there are 2 entities, one is Drishya and one is Drik. Right? Okay. So the question is, can Drik have samsara? Or can Drishya have samsara? 2 entities. We are a combination of them. So it has to be one or the other. It cannot be a third thing. So if we say perhaps Drishya has samsara, that doesn't make any sense, because we have already established that Drishya is inert. The table doesn't say, you know what, I am in a very bad state. I'm just been sitting here, nobody looks at me. It doesn't complain. Why? Because it is a Drishya. It is only there for you to enjoy. But it doesn't impose anything on you. So the Drishya cannot have samsara. Why? Because it is jadam. It is inert. Well, that only leaves with Drik. Wait a second. Just a minute ago you said that the Drik is totally free. Na udeti na astameti esha. Na vriddhim yati na kshayam swayam vibhati athanyani sadhanam vina. Drigeva natu drishyate. It is free. It is not beholden to anything. It is totally free. And now you're telling me that that free person has the samsara. That doesn't make any sense. So therefore, the word samsara cannot be ascribed to either one of them. So now the verse number 6 explains this phenomena. And it says, let's now look at, with this background of why the verse number 6 is, let's look at the word meaning of the 6th verse. So he says, Chit Chaya. So Chit, of course, is the same as the Sakshi, Drigeva natu drishyate, and then Naudeti na astameti, that is the Sakshi, that is the self, that is the Atma. Chaya means reflection. So the reflection, Chit Chaya means the reflection of the Chit. Aveshataha. Aveshataha means entered. It infuses itself. That's the word that is used here by Swami Viditatmanandaji. So it entered, and we will see all this in a minute, what the phenomena is. In the buddhi, having the infusion of the chit as a reflection in the buddhi. Buddhi means the mind. Now the experience, bhanam means the very experience, the luminosity of the mind. It splits it into two parts. So the reflection of the chit in the mind makes it into two parts. Chitchaya aveshataha buddhau bhanam dhihi. Dhihi. Dhi means buddhihi, the mind. Dvidhastita. Now it splits up into two functions. Eka ahankaraha kritihi. Ahankara kritihi means the I thought. So one portion is the I thought. Eka ahankritihi anyasa syat antakarana rupini. So one of them is the I thought, and the other one is the nature of an inner instrument. We'll explain all this in a minute. So antahkarana. Karana means instrument. Karana means any like your car is an instrument. The hammer is an instrument. A knife is an instrument. Plate is an instrument. Everything is an instrument. But they are either bahirkarnaha or antahkaranaha. Bahirkarnaha means these are outside instruments that you can buy and sell, use it and leave it. Inner instrument is your own. They are still an instrument, but they belong to you. They are with you completely all throughout your life. So mind is an instrument. And so here the two ways of the buddhi are, for example, you can say, I was thinking that the way forward in this problem is to do this. You take that statement. I was thinking that I think we should do it this way. So in there are both these segments involved. First of all, you have the I thought. If somebody says, what did you just say? So he said, I was thinking that we should do it this way. who is this I? Somebody can say, well, me, I am thinking. This is the I thought. I have a certain presence as a human being. So I am thinking. Okay, now that I understand that, what are you thinking? I am thinking that we should do it this way. So there are two aspects to this. One is the I thought. And the I thought, this is called ahankritihi, ahankara. So this is an important thing to see. So this is also called Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha. And so Vijnanamaya Kosha means, if I can just digress for a second and go into the 5 different koshas. So the 5 different koshas. Koshas means a covering of some kind. In fact, the true word, so this is given in lots of Upanishads. Taittiriya Upanishad is also there. And so kosha means a storehouse or a covering where something valuable is stored. Is called kosha. Okay? So like for example, supposing there is a box that is covering your jewelry. It has some nice soft paper and so on and so forth, and there is a box, and inside there is a jewelry. So that box is called kosha. So what happens is, this is not exactly what we are studying in this particular verse, but I'm just giving you an example of that. So now what happens is that we are given 5 different koshas. So one kosha means that it is the enclosure is the body. This is called Annamaya Kosha, is the body. Then inner to that, so this is outer to inner. You see, this is outer. Outer means that it is less close to who you are. And as you grow closer to who you are, it's like you are the jewel. Let's look at it this way. You are the jewel. And you are enclosed in 5 different boxes. This is an outer box and an inner box. As though. I think that'd be too much to have 5 boxes, why would we need that? But it's possible that you have a delicate box, and that is enclosed in a slightly less delicate box, etc. An outer box is and this is exactly the case. Our body is the outer box. It's called Annamaya Kosha. Inside of that is what is called Pranamaya Kosha. So the Annamaya Kosha is the physical body, an enclosure. Inside of that is the physiological body. Physiological body. Physiological body means hunger, thirst, breathing. Most important. This is called Pranamaya Kosha. In fact, the physical body, the physiological body and the breathing is the one that infuses life into the physical body. When the life is removed, the physical body is not functioning anymore. So inside of the Annamaya Kosha is Pranamaya Kosha. Prana means the very life, which means basically the breathing of outside. That has a very big function inside the body, how it creates energy, distributes it, breaks down the food, all of that is the Pranamaya Kosha. Then inside of that is Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya kosha is the mind kosha. And this is what we are studying here. We will go into more detail on the mind kosha. So the mind kosha is inner to you. And why? Because the mind says, I am alive. The prana doesn't say I am alive. Prana just keeps you alive. In fact, the breathing happens automatically. You don't have to even be conscious of it. But the mind is aware of that. So the mind is the drik and the prana becomes a drishya. In that sense, a different way of analyzing, but similar concepts. So the mind becomes a drik, and the mind is the one which is conscious. So the mind here is divided into two, and we'll come back to in a minute, but let me continue all the koshas. Since I took up that topic, I might as well complete it. So the mind kosha is inner to you. Inside of that is what is called Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha. So we have Annamaya kosha, you have Pranamaya kosha, you have Manomaya kosha, and the fourth one is Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha is the I thought. This is the same as Ahankriti, the I thought. Okay, and let me come back to it in a minute. Let me finish the 5 koshas. The last one is Anandamaya kosha. Anandamaya kosha is the sense of enjoyment. In fact, all the other koshas are all for enjoyment. The very basis of life is to seek joy. And I am confused as to how I will do so. But we will discover that really the Anandamaya kosha, the Anandamaya kosha is also an enclosure. This is the final enclosure for the jewel. Then comes the Atma, which is not an enclosure. It is the real thing. And the real thing is not Anandamaya, but Ananda. Maya means the modification of something, but this is the Ananda means it is already the very sense of joy. Anyway, so this is the 5 elements, 5 different koshas. So going back to the mind, it has 2 portions. So one is Manomaya kosha and one is Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha is the I thought. The I thought. Here Swami Dayananji had given a very beautiful example. I remember this so well. He said, suppose you have a new startup. A startup, not a new startup, a startup. So the startup usually is the brainchild of an individual. I think this is what we should do. This is what we ought to do. So what happens is that you discuss the idea with somebody and they'll say, yeah, that sounds good. So you start to make some money. You become the owner of the business. And then you need some help. So you actually hire some people to help you out because you can't do that yourself and the potentials are quite big. So you hire some people. And so now you have 2 or 3 people and then you are the owner. And then the company runs into some hard times to a point where you have to let go of the people that you hired. But you are the owner. You can still continue on, but the other one can come and go because they are hired or fired. but you are the owner. In that manner, the I thought is the owner of you, the individual. You are always there. The moment you are born, you say, I want this. I don't like that. I would like to do this. I. This is an expression of the Sakshi, as we will see in a minute. So the I thought is the one of the two sections of the mind. The other one, which is Manomaya Kosha, is Antakarana Rupini. So the Antakarana is an inner instrument which comes and goes. It is there all the time, but it changes. Not comes and goes, but it changes. It's kind of like, the people that you hire. You can let go of them, you can adopt somebody else and increase it, decrease it, but you are always there. So therefore the mind actually has two elements. One is the I thought and the other one is the this thought. I think we should do it this way. That is the ahankar, that is the antakarana. And I think is the ahankara. Those are the two ones. Now, both of them, now we have to say, both of them means that the ahankara and the antakarana, the mind, Manomaya Kosha or Vijnanamaya Kosha, both of them. Let us ask ourselves, are they the Drik or they are the Drishya? It has to be one of them. It cannot be either one of them exclusively. Why? Because the Drishya is inert and the Drik has no samsara. There is no desire to try to be free, no desire to do something. But I as an individual, that's not me. I have desires, I have aspirations, I have a future, I have a history, and so I'm a functioning individual. And which one of them am I? So there it is said that it's a combination of those two. The mind is the individual, in fact, and the individual, now we can say, who is the individual? Individual is the one that has the I thought, and it also has an instrument of thought, both of them. This is the individual. That individual is a combination of those two. What do you mean by a combination? How? So to see this, what we have to visualize, going back to it, is the electricity and an appliance. Electricity and an appliance. So now visualize there is a dark room and it is totally, you cannot see anything because it is dark. Supposing you run an electric wire, even if you expose it if you want to, uncovered by all these insulation and so on. Be careful, but you expose the wire. Can the wire by itself provide the light for this dark room? This is what we have to see. No, it cannot. Cannot do that. If you try running it just a wire, in fact, this is what happens. In a dark room, you have wires all over the place. I have so many outlets here. There is electricity. I have some missing electricity in the top. I'm getting some help for getting that done. But at least I have electricity in the plugs and so on. But it's still dark. So what needs to be is the electricity has to be reflected in an appliance. Electricity has to power an appliance which can generate light for this room. So look at this. This is an important thing to see. The electricity and the room darkness are at a different level. At a different level. Different level of grossness and subtlety. The electricity is too subtle. It's at a different level altogether. What the electricity has to do is to be reflected down to a level which is consistent with darkness in the room. So a light source is appropriate to remove the darkness, but not the electricity. You see, this is the situation. This is how the creation of the whole Ishvara is. The Atma by itself has no involvement. And another thing, so you say that fine, electricity is at a higher level. So let the appliance, you say that the appliance is the appropriate level for removing the darkness of the room. Let it do it. No. The appliance cannot do it by itself. It has to depend upon the reflection of electricity in the appliance. So look at this very interesting situation. The electricity by itself cannot interact. This would be the right word to use. The electricity cannot interact to do things. But surely it is possible that its reflection can interact with other things. So this is exactly what is happening. So what is happening is that I, the individual, is an appliance. The jiva, the individual, is an appliance. How? Because I'm capable of reflecting the Atma. The individual is capable of reflecting the Atma and becomes functional. Now I can clap, I can see, I can close my eyes, I can do anything I want to, I can move left and right, get up, go, sit down, all those kinds of things. And cannot do it by myself? Am I an independent person? No. I depend upon the Sakshi to be reflected onto me. And myself as a reflection, I have earned the right. So for example, the type of the individual, the one who reflects, is different. So for example, a small bug, it can only create problems for others and so on, but it doesn't know itself. Then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it becomes a cat or a dog or a horse. There it has some idea of what it's doing, but it still doesn't have an idea of itself. This is all mental reflection. But a human being, one of the highest forms of evolution, now it goes to work. If it was still an individual, it is still a reflected one. It's a very superior appliance, if you may. The bug is not it's an inferior appliance. But any time where there is a reflection of the consciousness, it's an appliance. Whether it's superior or inferior doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but that's a separate question altogether. And so the appliance, I am, becomes the appliance. So the Atma by itself, the Sakshi, cannot interact with the world. Why not? Because it's not as though it's incapable. It is at a higher level. But the reflection of the Atma in an individuality now goes to work. And so, really speaking, one other thing to talk about, Swami Viditatmananda also has explained this very well in the chapter, that really the mind, we talked about the koshas, the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, etc., Manomaya kosha, all the koshas are inert substances. Only the jewel, which is the Atma, is the awareful thing. Everything else is jada, as we talked about earlier. But the mind is so subtle that it has the ability to reflect the consciousness of Chitti. It is so subtle. The example of that, for example, would be that supposing you have sunlight falling in a room, then the sunlight falls on the walls, the ceiling, everything. So there is some light that is generated. But suppose the sunlight falls on a mirror in the room, then amazing things happen. Why? Because even though the rest of the room is in semi-darkness, but if there is a reflection of the sun in this substance called the mirror, the sun gets as reflected in it as though it is directly falling on the room, and it lights up the whole room. You see the point? So the point is, if the sun is falling on the walls are not been polished. They are very rough. And so the reflection is not very accurate. It is not very powerful. But if the mirror has been polished and the dirt has been taken out and so on, my gosh, you can injure your eye by looking at the reflection of the sun in the mirror. And somebody can just move the mirror and really make the whole thing light up. This is another example where the original sun may not be able to light up the room, but the reflected sun can light up the room. And so this is exactly another appliance, if you may, of the reality. So this is what happens. So now we can say that there really are two levels of reality. Two levels of reality. So one is consciousness which is the Sakshi, which is Chit. And so this one is what is called in Sanskrit Paramarthika Sat. Paramarthika means absolute reality. Now we will look into this in more detail later, but so the consciousness has absolute isness, absolute knowledge, and it is unlimited. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam or Satchidananda, absolute level. This is called Paramarthika level. But in order for this creation to take place, in other words, this is the interesting thing you can say, suppose this is the question that occurs, why was this creation done? A very beautiful creation of the whole world, very sophisticated, lots of things going on. The sun comes up in the morning, seasons come up, people are born, people die, and there is action, and there is goodness and badness, and learning and ignorance, and winners and losers. The whole creation, very sophisticated. Why was it done? What's the reason for it? Well, look at the alternative. The alternative is that there is Paramarthika Sat. Paramarthika Sat means there is only consciousness. There is only the Atma. And there is no reflectability, no appliance. How will the world be? It won't be as interesting as it is now. What keeps us going is not the Parama. Of course we need the Paramarthika Sat because that is the only source of our existence and knowledge and so on. But in order to become a creation, it has to be reflected. So the reflection is what is called Vyavaharika Sat. Transactional reality, which is a lower reality. Why is it a lower reality? Because the sun, and in the example of it, the sun is the Paramarthika Sat, whereas a mirror is Vyavaharika Sat, it is transactional. Because the mirror depends upon the sun. It can do some dancing, as it is now. I'm actually seeing that's interesting. Yeah, there's the sun right on the skylight. You can probably see some reflection in my face. If I brought a mirror, you can see that even more. But anyway, if the sun moves, I cannot dance my hand. The hand movement is depending on the sun, but while the sun is there, I can do some interesting things. This is what the creation is. And so one answer to the question is why there is a creation, because there'll be no tamasha, no fun, no drama. So similarly in the movie, for example, in the old style, if there is a light which is going through the film, moving film, it creates as though there is movement. On the screen you can see some heroes and heroines and villains and all kinds of stories and so on and so forth. They are nothing but the light itself, just the play of darkness and light in the movie screen. So therefore, there are two degrees of reality. One is the absolute Paramarthika Sat, and the other one is the transactional reality of the body and mind. And so this is the explanation of the nature of the individual. Okay, the nature of the individual is, it is neither. So in fact, verse number 6, Swami, I'm just going back to the notes from Swami Viditatmananda's book. So the verse number 6 asks two questions. It raises two questions. One question is, we have already looked into that. First question. We've already looked into that because we said, if there is only two entities, Drg and Drsya, then who has the samsara? Drsya cannot have samsara because it is inert. Drg cannot have samsara because it is inherently free. And yet I feel that I have samsara. Who am I if I am neither one of them, one or the other? This was the first question, and we have now partially answered it by saying, I am in fact the reflection of consciousness in my body. That's how I make myself an appliance and I go to work. And this is who I have a problem. I think I have a problem. I think I am a samsari. This is question number 1. The second question is, how do I know the Atma? If I am a reflection, is there a possibility that I become not the reflection but the real thing? And if so, how? Because my objective is not to read books and so on and so forth. My objective is to be free in life. And you have now explained to me the phenomena of why I feel I'm a samsari. And I understand that. It gives me some understanding. But that's not what I really want. I want to see, if I feel that I'm a samsari, how do I feel that I'm not a samsari? This is the second question that this verse starts on. So this one we will go into more detail next time. I think this requires some background building and so on and so forth. So I will take up the second question as part of this verse number 6, but then continue on because the rest of the topic, which will be the nature of the individual, and so the nature of the individual is not just purely sort of thinking, okay, this is how it is, but how do I clearly see that I am not a samsari. The objective is to see that I am not a samsari, even though I take myself to be a samsari, but I am really not a samsari. How? How is that possible? So for this, there are a couple of methods to see. So we will look into both of them. So one is there are different there are different methods used in the explanation. What is called prakriya. So the prakriyas are different methods. So one method is the reflection method. So that is, we've already started to think about that and we will continue on it. And the other one is called enclosure method. So enclosure method is where you have space and a room space. So this is what is called, first one in Sanskrit is called Bimba Pratibimbavada, which is the reflection method. And the second one is called Avachedavada, which is an enclosure. And if I understand both the phenomena, and both of them are useful. Each one of them has some advantages and some limitations, and looked at it together, they complement each other and give me a very complete answer as to why I am not really a samsari, I am the sakshi. So this is the trend of the second topic. The second topic is the nature of the individual, which has two sections. One is, how am I a samsari? And the second topic, much more important, is how do I not stay as a samsari and becomes a free person. So this we will take up in the next topic, which we will continue on with the next class. So with that, I close today's class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. All right, let us see if you have any questions. Okay. All right, let's see. Questions. Becomes a free person. Okay, so one question from Ramananji, which says that it will not be interesting. Interesting to whom? So I think that that just means that there will be no activity anywhere. It is just complete, so one way to look at it is that suppose you are asleep, fast asleep. And when you are asleep, you are ananda. You don't have any problems. Okay? Now, fine. So what if you never even wake up at all? In fact, to be born is not possible because I'm just talking about permanent sleep. What would life be? There will be no life. You have ananda, but there's no activity, there's no relationships, there is no starts and stops and so on. So this question comes up, obviously, with the question is that how come there is so much problems in life? That's a separate issue. But there needs to be some activity. So even for Ishvara and for Jivas and all the other people and so on, is just some kind of a play. That's all it is. And the play has a very good ending to it. This is what really matters. This is what I've been saying all along, that I think Ishvara's creation is so marvelous. If diversity is a permanent issue, then we will have a problem. But in fact, as we were saying in Purusha Suktam, there is in fact unity in diversity. Diversity is just a play. It's kind of like two teams playing each other for competition. And after that, when the game is over, they go to some place and have beer together, shake hands. And so this is what the ending of the whole. In the meantime, they are fighting with each other and fighting for the ball, this, that, or the other. But it's a play. At the end of that, the whistle blows and say, "Good job," shake hands. So this is what it is. This is just a make-believe play with a very beautiful ending in the end. That's what it is. Varun says the iron ball fire and the electricity are one of the best examples to exemplify. Thank you. And Renu Deswani says the sun making the hand dance is also good. Camille quotes, I stumble on the word reflection. I think of electricity as energizing. The appliance is energized, and we are energized by consciousness. Yeah, I think you can use that if you want to. But the word reflection has a wider applicability. So for instance, the reflection of the sun in a bucket of water, you can call it energized. I think that's not an issue. But a reflection is... anyway, this particular part of the Pratibimbavada and the Avachedavada will be taken up in more detail in the next class. In the meantime, let me give you a hint about why it is called reflection. Okay, suppose you look at yourself in a mirror. Are you energizing the mirror? I'm not so sure the energizing is the right word. But your reality is being reflected in the mirror. And it looks very real. If you move your hand, the reflection also moves the hand. But it is still a reflection. So I would maintain that the word reflection has been, I think if the reflection was not the adequate word, it would have disappeared by now. But I think it is more encompassing. But if you prefer to see it from an appliance standpoint as a energizing, then it's fine, Camille, no problems. Any other questions? So just as a reminder, we are going to just have a very short ceremony tomorrow about Guru Purnima at 9 o'clock. And if you feel like it, just come for a short time. It'll be a very short one. Just as a honor to the tradition of the teacher and the students coming together. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. Very good. Nice to see you. Very nice that you could attend today's class, and hope you're continuing with some kind of a structure of understanding. So all good wishes to all of you. Okay, bye-bye.